the Mitches podcast. I'm here with Tia Percy.
Hello.
Thanks for being on.
Oh my god, you're so welcome. Dream come true.
Amazing. But this is not your first podcast.
This is my second ever podcast.
And what was your first one?
First one was Spooked, the podcast. Check it out. It's awesome. Cody Crane, and it's about ghosts.
Amazing.
Which I loved.
So you had to tell him a ghost story?
Oh, at the end you improv a ghost story together, which I don't do improv, but it was basically just add a line, everyone adds part of the story. It was fun.
Did you do well?
I don't know if anyone was rating my ability.
It wasn't you were the worst one.
Yeah, we hated your story. We're cutting it from the show.
Do you really not do improv?
No. Do I strike you as someone who does do improv?
I feel like a lot of people in comedy, even if they don't seem like it, were they took drama in high school or they did some Second City classes.
They wouldn't let me. I applied. Truly, I used to do musical theater camp in maybe elementary school, and they kept giving me non-speaking roles because I was so bad.
Oh no!
I wanted to be a theater nerd, and they were like,
What? Can you sing?
Oh no.
And you're not good at acting?
No.
But you seem like you would be, because you're really good at hosting.
Thank you.
And stand-up.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm really, really terrible at it. I can't sing for my life. People tell me not to all the time.
I can't sing either, so I respect that. I don't know if I can act. How do you know you can't act?
I think you'll find out. You were talking about sketches. I think if you start doing stuff, you'll find out
and
pretty
people
quick.
are please stop.
Yeah, people will just stop asking you to participate.
How did you find your way into stand-up?
Okay, so I really love stand-up, for years and years and years. It was just, my favorite thing. Every second of the day I was listening to albums, and that was kind of just my whole life. And then I always thought I wouldn't do it. I was just it's not for me. I just like it. And then I think I just kept hating everything so much. Everything I was I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. Any career I thought of, I was I don't want to do that. And I had a couple boyfriends actually tell me, maybe you just want to actually be in comedy. Maybe that's what you should do. That's the only thing you like. And I was maybe. I don't know. So then I think I just saw an ad for stand-up classes when I was still in Vancouver, and I was okay, I guess I'll go do that. And as soon as I started the class, I was oh yeah, I should just do stand-up. I didn't even complete the end of the course because I was just oh, I just needed to go here to realize that I actually needed just a push to start.
I feel like it's a very stand-up thing to not finish the class. And just be I guess I'm a professional now.
Yeah, it didn't show up at the end. I was just no, I'll just start going.
But that's amazing, because it is more in the doing it than...
Totally. It was more it didn't teach me jokes or anything, obviously. It was more just that I was oh, now I'm around people talking about comedy. I never had friends or anything that liked it like I did.
Yeah.
So it just helped to get me actually wanting to go out and do it.
I was shocked at how many of my friends, it wasn't just that they were surprised I liked stand-up, but some of them were they wouldn't do Toastmasters, they don't like giving a speech, they don't like being in front of people, and they would never want to be famous. And I was how? None of you?
Yeah,
I just thought everyone secretly was I wish I was at the front of the room right now leading this.
Totally, I kind of thought that too. I kind of was when people say they're afraid of public speaking, I'm if you had the chance, you probably would love it, right? And people don't.
Yeah, and it's I get everyone's scared. You have nerves before, but then you're this is amazing.
Right.
And some people it's just bad the whole time for them.
Yeah, seriously. I don't know how that's possible.
It's finding out people don't like dessert or something.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you're just I think you're lying for some reason.
So, you were in the Vancouver scene before you were...
No, not at all. So, I did those classes in Vancouver, and I knew already that I was moving to Toronto, but a year later. So I did that, and I think I went to like one open mic maybe. Didn't like it. And I also just didn't like, because I grew up there, I didn't like the idea of anyone I knew seeing me. So I was like, I'll just wait till I move and I'll start somewhere where nobody knows me. So I moved to Toronto and I started like that night, like right when I arrived. I went out and started, and then just kept going.
What was your first mic?
Oh my god, it was the Royal.
Oh shit, so this place has a kind of a reputation.
Lore, it has lore. Yeah, so I went, and it was like one of the worst nights of my life. Truly one of the worst. But I think that's how I knew that I wanted to do it, because I was like, that was so awful, and I am gonna go out again tomorrow night.
Nice.
Like immediately was like, I'll go.
Was it just like a lot of men?
It was all men, like all incels, just every person being like, why is there a woman here? Like, and that's not to say like, that's not every place, it's not every open mic, it's not every place in Toronto.
Yeah.
You know, like, but it is that place.
Yeah.
And I went there and a lot of people were like, who's the chick? And then nobody thought I was doing comedy, so I sat there for like 5 hours, and they lost the list, so they didn't even know who was supposed to go up. And I was just sitting there watching, being like, is this how this works? Like, when do I go up? And then at like midnight, they were like, who are you and why are you still sitting here? I was like, I was supposed to go up. And they're like, oh, sorry, we don't know what happened. So they went up, bombed, obviously, and went home, and I was like, all right, that sucked, but whatever.
That's good. I like that that's your first time, because a lot of people would never go back. Like,
oh, yeah.
I feel like the fact that you kept going is like such a good sign for how far you could go.
Yeah, I guess that's true. No, it definitely did confirm that I was like, I still want to do this, despite the horrible experience. Yeah, scary in there. Some of those guys are really nice, but it was a scary vibe.
Yeah, I feel like there's very much like every room has its own personality, and it kind of is dictated by who runs the thing. So it's interesting, like when you meet the owner, sometimes you're like, you're exactly what I thought.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And now it's something else, and I've never been to the mic that is at the Old Royal. I've
had okay times there. It's always been really small when I've been there.
Okay.
So it's struggling in, I think, like being new right now.
Yeah, it seems like it's struggling a bit. That's fine. I don't know. That's fine.
Yeah.
That'll be fine. They'll get back on their feet.
They're in back of a chicken shop, so I feel like that is
tough sell.
Fun in of itself.
Sure, or fun. Yeah. Could be fun.
If you were going to have like a comedy venue in the back of some kind of shop, what kind of shop?
Okay. I actually do know. I would do a thrift store, like cafe bar situation with comedy in the back. That's like my dream scenario.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome? We can like be shopping while you're listening to comedy. It'd be kind of cool.
Could you have... I'm getting obsessed with astrology. So could you have like an astrologer who works in your like a little corner of your thrift shop where she's like doing astrology charts?
I mean, I have friends that would love that job. I have friends who would come for free and I would have to pay them. And they just sit there and be like, let me tell you stuff.
See, I'm in my 40s now, so I feel like I don't even know if my friends are on this
really?
As well.
You haven't checked?
I am embarrassed to ask people.
You're always checking if you love astrology.
I don't think it's happening in my...
Really?
Because I think I've seen this in stand-up talking about how all women are witches now.
Okay, that's a new joke, yeah. And I do worry about it leaning into the whole, like, I think it's pretty hacked to be like, women in astrology, like, whatever. I don't care. But it was more a comment on, like, my friends and how I find them funny to...
And see, it made me excited because I was like, it must be so cool to be young right now because it's like, there's like a witchy vibe in the air. And I just, 40-something people don't get into shit the way 20-something people get into shit.
That's so true.
I want to hear more about your friends and what kind of witchy shit they're doing.
Okay, So the joke came from an experience when I was back home recently. Like, okay, so my friend and I were driving, actually, three of us were driving in a car, and one of them, the driver, she's very into like crystals and ghosts and kind of everything, kind of anything an old man would be like, that's stupid. She's into that, she's into that stuff. And she's awesome, but it is hilarious to listen to her speak. And we were driving, we're all really tired, it's like late. We're on the highway, and then she misses the exit off the highway and like spirals. Like, she's so upset about it. It's stressing her out so much. And like suddenly she produces this crystal orb from like, don't know where she was keeping it, but it just like appears. And she's driving and like murmuring to her orb.
Oh my god.
It was crazy to watch. Like, we're gonna get in an accident because you're murmuring to your orb right now.
Oh my god.
It was nuts. So that's the most recent, and that's what made me be like, what
That sounds
is
unsafe.
going on? Yeah. Yeah, I was like, what's up in your brain? Like, you need something more than this rock, I think. Yeah. So that's her. And that's kind of what some of my friends are like. And I find it adorable and endearing, but also hilarious.
Are you rocking any weird hobbies lately?
I just got into knitting because I had a plane ride, and I was like, I don't know what I should do. I feel like I should produce something, like have something to show for this 5 hours, you know?
Yeah.
So I sat and knit for 5 hours straight, and I think I got carpal tunnel syndrome. So I'm kind of into knitting. Hobbies are tough for me because I just, I feel like whenever I start thinking about getting hobbies, I'm like, it's only when things are going really bad, you know?
Oh, shit.
I'm only like, oh, I should get a hobby when I'm not pleased with how my life is going. So then I think about the idea of like going to a place where I'd have to learn a hobby. And I'm like, well, then it's just a group of people all trying not to be super depressed. And that just seems sad to me. Like, to me, the idea of a pottery class is just all these people trying not to kill themselves. And I'm sure it's lovely, but I don't know. That's
I've
what
never
I think
thought of that with typical hobbies. I do think a lot of people are in stand-up because they can't afford therapy.
True.
Or they think, like, because they had something bad happen to them, like, I've got to make art from this.
Yeah.
So it's like, but it's just like, you know, some guy talking about his divorce.
Yeah, and you're just like, there's no joke here. It's just your life is bad. Yeah, it's just like, you just need more help than we can provide.
But you think, like, a lot of hobbies are just people having a problem.
Kind of, because I'm like, I don't know, I think if you're like, I think a lot of people who have a ton of stuff going on in their life and they're really fulfilled and happy, like, aren't like, oh my god, should I get into like needlework or whatever, you know? I don't know. Especially those ones where you have to go to a class and learn it. It feels like people who are like, ooh, my Saturdays are long and boring, what do I do? Which is fine, I've been there. Like, I've thought about hobbies, but yeah. Yeah, sometimes when I think about those classes, I'm like, oh no, what am I doing this for?
So apart from comedy, was there like a big pull towards Toronto?
I have family here, so partly that, but it was mostly just like, I don't love Vancouver. It's very small, and I was over it, so I wanted somewhere bigger.
Did you grow up right in Vancouver?
Yeah.
What neighborhood?
Like Kits.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted somewhere bigger, and Toronto was kind of like the only option.
It's funny because I think of like, I feel like West Coast people are more fun than us, but it's like they have nowhere else to go. It's sort of like, if you want a bigger city, like,
totally.
do you want to learn French and go to Montreal?
Yeah.
Like, or do you want to
go to Montreal?
Yeah.
I just feel like Toronto is the best city in Canada, so I was like, I'll go there. Yeah, and I love it. Love it here. I think it's amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like you fit in here?
Way better, because whenever I talk to anyone who's like, no, Vancouver's amazing, it's because they like the outdoors, and I don't really care, you know?
Yeah.
The outdoors are fine, but I feel like whatever stuff I want to do outdoors, I can find it here if I needed to. and there's only so much time you can spend like staring at the mountains, you know?
Yeah,
So.
I moved out west when I was in my late 20s, and it got me into the outdoors, and it had a lot of positive effects on my life. But the people I became closest to out there were from like Winnipeg and China.
Totally,
And
not
then,
from Vancouver.
Yeah, and
Yes.
it made me realize, because I always thought I was very like leftist and progressive and like also chill.
And it made you vote conservative.
It made
like enough of these people.
It made me
free.
realize, like, in a group, I like to be the left one. So if I get around two left people, I also realize I really like aggressive people.
Okay.
So it's like you're not chill if you're with a bunch of chill people. Like,
right.
I need to be with like, and I feel like Ontario in general has, I think our immigration was different. We got more like aggressive people, louder, argumentative people, and it.
Say what you mean. Say what ethnicity you're talking about. No, I'm kidding. Don't say.
I just think Vancouver didn't have a lot of immigration until like the 90s, so it was very white for a period of time, and it missed some of like the warmth that you get from having a lot of like Jewish, Italian, Greek immigration.
Oh, interesting.
So like the same way like New Yorkers will fight you, but in Portland no one's fighting. It's like that same dynamic.
I totally do know what you're talking about, because one of the huge things I noticed, like there versus here, is that Vancouver's so quiet in like a polite way, but not really, more in just like everyone's scared of making a scene. But I came here and people are not afraid to make a scene. People are constantly, and I'm not talking about like homeless people screaming. That's Vancouver also, but I just mean like people here are more fine being loud and like not worried about like hushing each other a lot, you know? Like Vancouver, you would never hear someone play their music out loud, like on the subway or on the street or something. Here, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that about here.
It's weird because it's like there's a lot of stuff I think I thought was annoying until I was around people who didn't do the stuff I complained about, and then I was like, actually, I go back home with my annoying friends.
Totally, yeah. And Vancouver's just like a very quiet culture, and I don't care for that.
I feel like though it might be a good place for a lot of people to live for a period of time. Like,
that's what they say.
Get outside.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Maybe some people need that, for sure.
And Toronto is very work-oriented. So I respect anyone who needs to escape it.
That's true. I do feel like Toronto, because it's work-oriented, though, is also, like, much, much more, like, trying to balance it. So everyone in Toronto, like, goes out more as well. So they work harder, but they're also... play harder. No, they actually do. They'll like go out more and like like try to have a good time. And also because the weather, I think like they know there's going to be a period of time where it's so cold and like they're like worried they won't be able to go out and have fun and whatever. So they like try even harder. Yeah. Whereas Vancouver, I think, is like still somewhat work oriented, but then people don't even try to go out or socialize that much. So it's just kind of sad. That's what I think.
Yeah. I remember I read this article Bjork wrote about Iceland, and she talked about how because their summer is so brief, everyone's outside and takes advantage of it. And I do think that about wintry places.
Yes, I think so too. They're like more prepared.
Although Vancouver, were you just like, it's so dark there in the winter, like were you so depressed every day of your childhood?
All the time, but you know what? I was actually more like, it wasn't seasonal depression in the winter. It was more like I would have it in the summer because I was like, oh no, it's sunny, and if I don't make the absolute most of it, like I feel like it's wasted. So then I would get like depressed in the summer if I felt like I wasn't having the best summer ever.
Summertime sadness.
Exactly, it's so sad. Apparently the word is, there's like a term, it's sunshine guilt. Oh. And even now here I have it sometimes, where if it's sunny, I'm like, and I'm not doing something, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm wasting my life.
Yeah, there is a lot of summertime pressure.
Yeah. True. I guess everywhere, but Vancouver specifically, I felt.
Do you get FOMO?
I think I don't get it like the way that a lot of people get it. Because I feel like I hear people talk about it, and I'm like, oh, I don't really have that. Like when I make a choice to stay in or whatever, I'm pretty comfortable with that choice usually. Yeah. If anything, it's more of like if I don't do comedy, I'll feel bad about not doing comedy. Especially if the thing I chose to do otherwise was less good than the comedy I could have done, you know?
Yeah.
That might just be like a mental problem, but like that just may be an addiction to doing open mics, which is
Do you think
I'm
it's
trying to get over.
addictive for you at this point?
At this point, I'm getting better about it because I'm like trying to force myself to be like, it may not be beneficial to go out tonight, but I do think for the first year, like, that was the best thing I could have done was go out every night,
Yeah.
whether I wanted to or not. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, if you stay in and rest, that may be better for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it started as soon as I went to a mic, but a few months in, I was like, I need to start grinding. And then I do think you got to do that. And
you also see all the people who are out every night, and you're like, oh my god, they're out way more than me. I need to go.
Yeah. So it's competitive, and it's weird because it takes away from you relaxing and socializing and getting a lot of this. I know you're socializing, but it's a different thing.
Very different.
It's not the same as being around all your friends who just accept you and aren't competing with you at all.
True. It
So-
also helped being new here because I didn't have anything else to do. Like I was like, okay, I'll go because it's not like I could be hanging out with friends. I didn't have any friends here, so it was kind of perfect.
It's also like an amazing thing for traveling. Like I've done open mics in New York, and then we were in Europe, and I did some in like Berlin and Warsaw.
Oh,
And like
cool.
usually you just go a place, and it can be hard to meet people while traveling, right?
Totally.
But open mic, and then some of them are incels, but you do meet people. It's still more fun than.
Yeah, that's so true. That's a really good point. It's kind of fun. But FOMO, I also like am really, really not online, and I think that's helped me so much. Like, especially comedy wise, I think that's helped with FOMO like more than anything else because I don't see what people are up to.
So do you? How not online are you?
I'm so not online that I go on to post my stuff. Like if I have to post shows or whatever, I go on, post my stuff, go off. Like I don't see stories. I don't see posts. I don't.
That's actually really
things.
good. Was it hard to get into that?
No, because I never got obsessed with it in the first place.
You've never had a phase.
No, like I got Instagram in grade 9 and then I never upgraded. Like I just stayed. I was like, Instagram's fine. We'll stay on Instagram. Never got Twitter, never got TikTok.
Is that unusual amongst your friends?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My friends' screen time
Are
is
people mad at you?
People do get mad at me actually, yeah. Like occasionally people will be like mad if I don't like see their stuff or like it or repost or whatever it is, but also I think if anyone ever really got mad at me, I'd be like, well, it's kind of weird of you to be mad about this. Like that's you have a problem, maybe I can flip it on that.
But this is interesting to me because you like being on stage, you love performing, but you don't like social media.
I think I just don't like admin work, and to me it feels like that. I think I just don't like, it feels like sending emails. Like, I'm like, why am I sitting at my computer, my little computer, you know, and like, trying to tell people stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Because I think I was in my early 20s when all this shit came out, and I remember my cousin was just like, it just feels like coming home from my job and then I have to go on to another job.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel about it, too. I'm like, I don't like this at all. Like, I'd rather talk to people in real life.
Yeah.
Or see people in real life.
Are you always talking to people?
In real life?
Yeah.
No. I'm just like, if I have to, I would rather it be in real life.
If you're on a subway, will you talk to people?
Strangers?
Yeah.
If they talk to me and they seem crazy, I will talk to them because I think that's fun. Like, and I know I'm not like being disparaging and crazy. I mean, if they're talking to me and they're saying something like unusual, I will engage because that's to me like the only benefit of taking transit.
Yeah.
Like I think when you drive a car all the time, and even when I'm biking, like you don't have those funny interactions, whereas something always happens on transit, and I kind of love it. Like that's what makes it worth it.
That's a good attitude to have.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get really angry walking around because everyone's in my way, and I have to be like, I chose to live here. Like, I have to look at these people and like appreciate them just being here, and then I'll maybe like notice people's fashion and be like, okay, it's good that you're here.
Oh, that's kind of nice. It's kind of a nice way to notice people's outfits.
My shallow thing that I can appreciate about others.
Yeah, that's funny. I like that. Yeah, so I do like to engage with people in some way, but also if I'm like super tired, I'm like, no, leave me alone, please.
I'm a big headphones on transit, so I
Yeah.
just don't talk. And I feel like I don't talk to a lot of people in my building and like
In general, you'll
Yeah.
avoid conversation.
I try to like be less like that. Like chat
So-
people up when I go to the office or like
Is stand up hard? Because I feel like a lot of it is standing around having to chat to people.
I actually like stand up. I think there's something about it like where I don't know, it's like when I'm there I've like chosen to know those people and I have like
That's true.
appreciation
Yeah.
for them.
Interesting.
And I guess because I'm waiting. As
Yeah,
opposed to
you
like if
have
I'm
be
trying to
there.
get somewhere, I'll just be like, why are you in my way?
Yeah, true. That makes sense.
Do you like the comedy scene?
Yeah, I really do. Definitely. I think there were a lot of like learning curves at the beginning, just being like, this is a type of people I've not encountered before. So there was like that learning curve, but for the most part, now that I feel like I've found the people I really like, I'm like, oh, this is even better, you know? Like, I think comedy attracts a lot of people who are sort of in it for the wrong reasons or are just an odd personality type that, like, make it hard to navigate. But once you get through all of that, like, weird starting stuff where you're like, I don't know if this is important or not. Like, I think sometimes you interact with people and you're like, is this going to be a huge deal or not? And once you get over that and you're like, oh, this doesn't matter at all. Like, if someone's weird, it doesn't matter at all. Then I think it's totally fine.
Yeah.
And I do like it. And I like the Toronto scene because it's so big compared to, from what I've heard, other cities. Like, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Because if you don't like one area of it, you can, move, do something else,
Yeah.
meet other people.
There's kind of like different versions of this scene.
Totally. You can kind of like make it what you want. Yeah. Rather than if you're in a tiny community, it feels like it would be harder if you don't like it. You're kind of just stuck with it.
Yeah.
But also, I've heard really, really good things about the smaller like scenes in Canada where it's a way tighter knit community. Everyone's friends. It's really nice.
Is there any city that you thought that city seems to have, like, not that you've been there, but like you've heard
Yes.
it, or like it seems like.
Yes, Edmonton. I've heard such good things about Edmonton.
I was gonna say Winnipeg.
Really?
That's where I think
why?
everyone's having the best time and is like
Really?
really supportive of each other.
That's cute.
And they seem artier.
Yeah.
But now that you say Edmonton, I'd only met like a few people from there, and I'm always like, this isn't what I was expecting from Alberta at all.
Totally. And when I was talking to my friends from Edmonton, they were like surprised when they came to Toronto that it was like, how do I, like less woke, I guess.
Oh, they
I
thought
hate
they
the
were,
word woke,
yeah.
but, like,
People were gonna yell at them for not being.
Yeah, like coming from Alberta, I feel like they were like, why are we more progressive than you guys? But then I guess it's because Toronto is just a bigger city, like
Yeah.
more stuff slides. Yeah. So I don't know. I think Edmonton sounds amazing.
Yeah, and Toronto's also fed by smaller communities within Ontario.
Totally.
So
Totally.
yeah, you're getting people from
Yeah.
Sarnia and Chatham and all of our various towns.
Exactly. That's so true. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'd love to go there. Winnipeg, really?
Yeah.
I feel like I know some people who moved here from Winnipeg and they're awesome, but I haven't heard much about the actual scene.
Are there a lot of Vancouverites, like, where you feel like are you associating with other van people?
No.
You're like, fuck
Not
you
really.
guys.
Not really. Like, I just feel like the Vancouver people who are here were like here so far before me, and they had already started there. So they're like Vancouver people who have Vancouver roots, you know? Whereas I'm like, comedy-wise, I just consider myself a Toronto person because I started here.
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
So I'm not really.
You can't reminisce. You can't be like, oh, that club where
Totally.
we all
Yeah.
had those formative times.
Exactly. But I do like them. They're great. They're great people. But yeah, I don't know them that well, and I feel like no one else has really moved here around the same time as me. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe someone will come.
So what year did you get here in?
Last year. Like 2020. What year are we in right now?
We're in 2024.
Okay, so 2023.
I thought you were in it for longer.
No, year and a half now.
Yeah, that's like me too.
Yeah, I think we
Okay.
started right around the same time.
Amazing.
Yeah, I know.
And what do you think? Like you've learned a lot.
Oh yeah, so much. So
Is
much.
it stuff you can say, or is it just more like?
It's mostly experience stuff. Like,
Yeah.
It's mostly stuff that I feel like I can't even put into words because I just don't know what it is. But I guess, yeah, learning how to navigate the people is the biggest one for sure. Like, it's such a crazy, like, thrown back into high school as an adult is a really weird feeling.
Yeah.
That's sort of what it felt like, and learning how to, like, navigate that maturely now, because it's like, oh, I'm in the same situation, but now I'm an adult, so now I have to handle this like an adult. It's very weird.
I almost have a thought of like, do I want to just maybe make the same mistakes I made as a young person? Like, how about with if someone criticizes me, I tell them to fuck off.
Yeah.
You know, like, because
Yeah,
you can
you
just
can.
do everything the way you did it the first time.
You can. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people, I do think a lot of people make that mistake, is they're reacting to stuff like because it feels the same way it did when they were young, and they're like,
Yeah.
I hate that, and then they react the way they would have, and you're like, ugh, what is this behavior?
What were you like in high school?
I was fine. I don't know. Like, I would say I was like not unpopular.
So you had friends.
Yeah.
You couldn't be the theater kid you wanted to
Couldn't be the
be,
theater kid.
but you found some stuff to do.
Yeah, I was like just normal, I guess. I wasn't like super weird or anything, and I wasn't like everyone's favorite. I also was like very depressed, so I think that was like confusing for people.
Oh, like how did your depression show up? Like
Um,
overly?
I would just like become very antisocial sometimes. So I think it was confusing because sometimes I was like kind of like fun and popular, and then sometimes I was like mean and reclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is weird as a teenager.
Yeah. But I do think it's common that people were having some kind of mental health struggle, and nobody.
For sure.
There's a few people I would have said like that guy's clinically depressed,
Yeah.
but like for the most part, like I remember this kid who came out just out of high school, and I always thought he was just like a grumpy pothead. I never thought feminine or gay, and then it was like, wow, when he came out, he really became gay. Like he was happy,
Right.
and then you realize like his whole personality for me was just his depression.
Oh,
But I wouldn't have
that's really
never
sad.
said. I would have never said depressed. I just thought that was just
Right.
what he was like.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And that probably is the case a lot. You're
And
right.
probably, yeah, like half the people you know, that was just.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What were you like in high school?
I was like, kind of like a bad kid, but just like I think also I had like low self control, and then I like gave myself an anxiety disorder, and then was
Gave
like.
yourself an anxiety disorder. What does that mean?
I just did like a bunch of psychedelic drugs, and then I had like a
Oh.
bad acid trip, and then I unraveled mentally over the period of a few
Really?
years.
In high school?
Yeah.
Whoa, you started young.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And then I think then that made me sort of like always like hanging out with kids who drank a lot.
Right.
And like I got on with other kids, but I was just like, I'm not gonna hang out with you if we're not drinking. That wouldn't
Really?
be chill for me. So it was like a really weird series of like non-choices that made me kind of
Right.
odd.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Interesting. I would not have pegged you for a person who was really into psychedelics.
Yeah. I feel like I have a visual look that looks like I did like really wholesome, nice kid
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But I was always like kind of like a big reader and like a nice kid. Like I got
Right.
on with people.
Right. So now do you ever do like shrooms or anything, or is it not
Oh
something
my
you do at all?
god, no.
You would never do
Like,
it again? Like, it was
If
that
people,
bad?
sometimes people are like, oh, are you ever like tempted to drink? Like, because we're out at bars all the
Oh, so
time.
you don't drink at all?
No, I had to
Okay.
give up drinking because of alcoholism. But like, the way The only way I think I would drink again is if I accidentally got high. I would just immediately drink.
Like I accidentally got high.
I have accidentally gotten high before.
Really?
Like once I got hotboxed when I was like
right. Okay.
still friends with like still in that phase of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I cannot handle any kind of psychedelics.
Yeah, that's so fair. I feel like they're so bad for a lot of people.
How do they work for you?
I have never done like a real dose of anything because I'm like, I don't think I react well. I really don't think my body can handle it. I think it would make me crazy. So yeah, I'm scared of what it would do to me.
Yeah.
I also really hate being out of control, and I feel like that's what people like about it. Is they're like, I put my life in the hands of the drug, and I hate that. Like, I want it to end as soon as possible.
But it's funny because you seem like you would like that. Because you're very like when you're like hosting or on stage, you're very like present and like with things that are maybe going wrong.
Right.
So I would be like, oh, this girl likes roller coasters and drugs and like.
Interesting. No, because I feel like if I were not present, I wouldn't be able to do. I wouldn't be able to do anything. Like, I don't think I'd be able to handle anything. Like, I don't even drink before comedy ever. Because if I have half a drink, I'll like, forget stuff. I won't be able to be in the moment.
Do you drink?
I drink. I will drink once in a while, but I don't really like it as much as I used to. Like, it just doesn't have the appeal anymore.
Yeah. Do you think you aged out of it?
Yeah, kind of. And I'm not. Yeah, I think my priorities changed. Like, I'm doing comedy every night, so then I'm not drinking beforehand, and then after I'm usually tired, so I'm like, oh, I'll just go home. I'm not like going out and partying. This
is like probably a bad thing to. I don't like to say this to people because I feel like because I'm an ex-drinker, I don't want people to feel like, oh, she hates drinkers or she looks down on people who drink. But I'm like, I think it's such a waste. Like, I feel like it absorbs a lot of your energy during the years when you need it. And people who don't drink in their 20s, whatever, like, you could be an addict or you could be just like somebody allergic to it or your friends didn't like drinking. But those people have an edge because they just have more energy and are doing better shit.
True. I think so too. And I think, as I sound so fucking boring right now, but like, I even think the idea of like people whose brains got to develop more is better. Because like, I didn't drink a lot, but I did have to take a lot of antidepressants because of the thing. And I like feel like it did affect my brain because I was in those crucial years. And I'm like, oh, I mean, if I'd been drinking a ton, it would have been way, way worse, obviously. But even that, I'm like, yeah, people who are drinking a lot during that time, I'm like, yeah, you're kind of wasting.
So wait, do you think the antidepressants had a bad effect on your development? Yeah,
for sure.
Because you were young when you took them?
Not even that. I think they kind of do that in general. Like, I just think still now I feel like my brain hasn't really recovered fully in every way. But I also think, like, the benefit outweighs the like whatever happened to my brain is like still better than just staying depressed all those years. Like, it's definitely worth it.
Did you get out of it suddenly, like when you started taking them, or did you have like a slow climb out?
No, I would start a new one and it would work right away, which is like a really good sign that it is just a chemical problem in your brain. So it would work right away, and it would work for a while, and then it would just stop working like over time, and then I would switch to a new one, same thing, and that's kind of what I did for a while.
Do you have a diagnosis other than just like depression?
ADHD, but that's, I mean, everyone in the world.
But does that affect the depression, or are they totally separate?
They definitely go hand in hand. Like, I feel like tons of people who have ADHD also have depression and vice versa.
And I think it's funny, though, because it's like ADHD people don't seem like they'd be depressed.
Yeah.
Like, you don't seem...
That's what people always say. Yeah. But I think that's always the case.
Yeah.
You know?
And I guess nobody really seems depressed unless they are depressed.
True. Yeah. Yeah. I think if you saw me at the time, maybe you'd be like, oh yeah, she's depressed. But I also like definitely have spent so much of my life, like I've worked in restaurants for forever, and so I've spent a lot of my life like being forced into situations where I'm like not allowed to act depressed. Like I have to behave happy.
Yeah.
And I actually don't think that's a bad thing. Like, as much as, like, I think there's something to be said about, like, you shouldn't have to, like, act a certain way or whatever, I think it helps me a lot to, like, have to adhere to some social norms.
Like,
you know?
there's some degree of, like, fake it till you make it.
Yeah, totally. Like, I think, the fact that I just have to behave normally keeps me from slipping into, like, just being sad at home or whatever, you know? Like, I don't think it's a bad thing all the time if you are required. That's why I think people who have, like, especially in comedy, I was talking about this with someone the other day, but especially in comedy, like, I think if you have something other than comedy, like, any job, just something else, like, that requires you be a human in the world, it's not a bad thing, because so many comedians, I find, like, if they let themselves just be comedians, it's like what we were just saying earlier, like, they can just act very high school, and that's okay, because the only thing they're around is, like, comedians. And I don't think that's always healthy for you. You know? I think you should be required to maintain some standard of behavior in the world.
Yeah.
Because it's just nice for other people.
No, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I just believe that.
I feel like, I don't know. So what age were you when you stopped being on meds?
Right before I moved to Toronto. So last year, I was like, I have this big move coming up, and I just decided that it was going to change my life so drastically that I wasn't going to need medication anymore. And it's probably not, like, this is not how they recommend you do it at all, but, like, 2 weeks before I left for Toronto, I just was like, okay, I'm done with medication. I weaned off it a little bit, like, I did, like, decrease, but pretty much I was just like, all right, I'm done with it, and then moved here and never took it again, and I honestly was fine. And that's not, like, normal.
Yeah.
That's definitely not how people do it, and it wouldn't work for everyone, but I just so strongly believed that moving and changing up my entire life was gonna fix me, and then it did. So, I don't know.
I think the things we tell ourselves are really powerful.
Yeah.
Like, because I had to, like, quit a bunch of stuff, and, like, the first thing I quit was cigarettes. And I knew that in the past I'd almost been helped through hypnosis, or I had temporary gains. So I'm like, I'm going to hypnotize myself, and I'm just going to say I was never a smoker. I just misinterpreted my anxiety as wanting a cigarette. So, like, the feeling in my chest, that's not a nicotine fit. That's just, like, my general discomfort with life, and it just exists. And then, like, I don't know, then I just never smoked again.
Really?
And it was, like, crazy.
And you feel fine.
Yeah, and I had tried to quit a lot before, but it was like,
God.
I just finally figured out how to just make this, like, mental adjustment, and I kind of lied to myself, but in a way that it worked.
That's so cool. Wait, how did you hypnotize yourself?
Like, I didn't actually do any kind of ritual. It was just, like, a thing I said to myself, but it was like, I suggested it to myself, and I decided to believe it.
Whoa. That's crazy. Good for you. And you've never had a cigarette since?
No.
Oh my God. When was that?
But my drinking got worse around the time I did that.
Okay. So you, like...
But that was also I was in the last years of that, and it was probably gonna go down anyway.
It's crazy that you quit cigarettes before you quit drinking. I feel like usually people who quit drinking, like, hold on to smoking for a long time.
I think, like, the mental leap that I needed to take to quit drinking, I couldn't make that.
Right.
And it was almost maybe like I was, like, avoiding doing the thing I needed to do, and I did something related to it.
Yeah.
But then they say when you make a decision like drinking, you've actually made it in the years leading up to when you finally quit.
Right. Like
and
a breakup.
And you didn't know you were making it, but you were making it all along. So.
Damn. Did you do AA or anything?
I did, like, inpatient for, like, a month, and then, which is, like, the first week is, like, detox, and then it's, like, rehab. And then through that, I had all this access to programming at CAMH, so I did, like, a lot of direct treatment for anxiety, and then this just, like, aftercare for addiction.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was medicated, too. I was on gabapentin, which is also Neurontin. So they gave it to me it's like an anti-craving, or it's prescribed for alcohol cravings. And I was like, I didn't really see myself as a drinker because of alcohol cravings. I was, like, avoiding anxiety with alcohol. So I'm like, I don't need this, but there's something like when you're in a hospital, you feel like you have to play along or they're gonna not support you.
Yeah.
So I just took it, and then I think it had this kind of dampening effect on my anxiety, and I was on it for like 9 months, and I think it helped with my overall.
Whoa. And you can only get prescribed that if you are in the hospital, or why? So why don't people just do that?
Okay, why don't people get gabapentin?
Yeah, why wouldn't they just do that? Like, what's...
I kind of think you should talk to your doctor about getting on it if you have a drinking problem or anxiety.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like the best treatment for both. But I don't hear about anyone using it.
Yeah, because this is the first I've heard about it.
Yeah.
And I know a lot about addiction and alcoholism and stuff, so that's crazy.
Yeah.
Really? So there must be some reason they're not, like, just giving that out freely. I
Yeah.
feel like that would help.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. I'm gonna look into this.
Let's ask our doctor.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because, yeah, I think, like, one of my friends said something to me, like, it's too bad there isn't just a pill for this. And I was like, there kind of is.
Yeah.
They don't like prescribing it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Government conspiracy coming up. I'm gonna formulate a new one.
Did you ever know anyone who did shock treatment?
No, I didn't. But I think it's so interesting. Like,
Because I've heard of that for like really deep depression.
Yeah.
And that's one
sure.
of those things that sounds crazy.
It
So
does
I'm
sound
like,
crazy.
I want to
Yeah.
get someone on here who's done
I know, I would love. I just think it's so extreme that it's like pretty rare to do. Like, I did go to my doctor when I was super depressed and ask if I could do ketamine treatment.
Yeah.
And but it was like too close to the time I was moving, and he's like, it's a whole thing. We wouldn't want to start it and then have you move and like interrupt the treatment. So he was like, maybe don't do it now, but if you still want to do it later, look for a place in Toronto.
Okay, so I don't actually know what is that.
Ketamine?
Like, other than something people get high on.
That's pretty much all that it is. But it's it like works for depression. I mean, so many illegal drugs truly do work for things. It's just like it's too risky to allow everyone to use them because they cause so much harm for.
Is it a psychotropic? Like, it's a trip, right?
I think it's more of a sedative than anything. But I'm not sure because I never did it. And I haven't done it for fun either because, like I said, I'm scared.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, it's too highly addictive and too scary to just let everyone do it. But it is like has such great results for people who use it medicinally. So I believe in that, and I think the steps they go through is like they would try like ketamine therapy first and then the electro thing after.
Yeah. I think of like a lot of people who are like using psychedelics for mental health stuff. I'm like, but they're not doing it through their doctor. I'm like, I think you're supposed to try a lot of the regular stuff before you go to that.
For sure. Yeah. I'm like, you're not qualified to decide how much to take.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. I know.
Do you think though, even though you don't think psychedelics would work for you, do you think if you did it like with a shaman?
Totally. No, I do think like ayahuasca or something like that would work for me. I think it'd be great. I just would be way too scared to do it on my own. And I haven't looked into like the whole thing, you know? There's a doctor, Gabor Mate from the downtown east side of Vancouver, writes a bunch of books. He's amazing. And he is like one of the leading doctors trying out ayahuasca therapy in Canada, but it's illegal, so it's really hard to actually do and publish his results and stuff. But he believes in it so wholeheartedly. He's like, it's amazing for ADHD, for addictions, for eating disorders, for depression, everything. Like, he believes it so much, and I think he's right. I just think it's like, it's really hard to balance allowing it to a certain extent and not allowing it to people who can't handle it, because then for some people it's so bad.
Yeah, high risk.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I haven't heard him talk about that, but I've seen clips of him talking about other stuff, and he's very intelligent, and I love just like the way he speaks.
So smart. I love him. You should read the book, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts.
In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts?
Really good. Yeah.
What is the topic?
So it's about addiction, and it's like based in the downtown east side of Vancouver. So it talks a lot about. He worked in like a clinic there, and I used to do that work too. So I'm like, oh my god, this is very like this is all real stuff that I've witnessed. So it's really interesting. Really sad book, but basically it does like stories from his work in the downtown east side, and then mixed with like research and
Okay, so you worked in a clinic?
Yeah, so I used to work in like clinics and shelters in the downtown east side for all through university. That's what I was doing.
While doing a psych degree?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's always been very intense and a huge problem out there, but I feel like more recently it's just gone insane. Like,
For sure. And I've heard Vancouver's like even worse than it used to be now. Although when I came to Toronto, I was like shocked at what it's like here, because I feel like I heard so much about how Vancouver was the worst, and I came here and I was like, whoa, this feels worse to me. Not that it matters to compare them, but it's just like I do feel like here it's more dispersed, so you see it more, whereas in Vancouver it's contained to a specific area so much that if you don't want to see it, you can ignore it completely.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's like it's in your face all the time.
Yeah.
So and it's more aggressive.
You can be in Vancouver and feel like you just live in another city. Yeah. But when you go to the downtown east side, it is like this city of like misery.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, it is true in Toronto. It's just take this subway anywhere in the whole city and it's with you on the train and in the neighborhoods.
Which I think makes people like more callous about it actually.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it's like people are seeing it, they're having negative experiences with it that like impact their lives and like inconvenience them, which people hate. So I think like I came here and I was shocked at how like totally okay it is in comedy, especially for people to make like homeless jokes, and no one seems bothered by it. Which, I was like, oh, I don't care for that, because that's definitely punching down. And I see people who even like would say like, oh, I don't punch down in comedy, do jokes like that. And I'm like, really?
And really, people I know anywhere in the city who I would regard as compassionate, who do volunteer work, who will just say really blamey things. And I even think my own thought process definitely went downhill in the past like 5 years, where like it's actually really but it's like when you're around it all the time, it's like it's probably part of your own defense mechanism, that it like it's easier to like blame people than to like feel how upsetting it is that someone's
there's definitely an element of like not everybody can do that work or volunteer or anything, and so I think a lot of people are just like scared to think about how awful it is. It's easier to just like put it out of your mind.
As someone who struggles with depression, did it make you sad when you were working in the clinic?
Yes, but I don't know that it was even like depression related. It was more just like hard. I guess it did. I don't know. Hard to separate those things. It was all happening at the same time.
It's not probably because you're depressed. It's just that was.
It was more that like I was living in the area. Like I was living in the downtown east side. Like that's where my apartment was, and I was also working there. So it was like all day I was there, and then I would go home and I was in the same area. So there was just like no getting away from it. So it's just all the time, this is all you're seeing. Yeah. Which is like, I mean, a ridiculous thing to complain about, because it's like the people who literally live there, that's all they're seeing too, Yeah. But yeah, it was a lot to be like immersed in it all the time. And it was hard. Like, I think the people who do that work are the strongest people in the world. Like, people I met who were doing it for like 20, 30 years. I was like, I don't know how you do this at all. But also part of it just feels really hopeless. Like, and that's so sad to say, but a lot of the work you're doing is just like band-aiding a really, really deep problem. Whereas I was like, I hope that one day I can, do something policy-wise or like higher up, I guess, that would make a difference. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. That seems
But it is like a different kind of constitution to be on the ground with it all the time, as opposed to
which you need. You
Yeah.
need those people.
Yeah, but it's
But after a while,
very
it was
few
like,
people
this
have
is
that.
taxing. Yeah. And then you feel very guilty for being like, oh, it's sad for me to have to even see this. It's like ridiculous, you know? But But it is.
Do you see a way out of it? Like, do you think we're gonna figure it out, or this is? This is an awful question for a comedy podcast.
I know the most.
Solve it, Tia.
How do we solve homelessness right now on this podcast? It's like we're making the most depressing podcast right now. Like the answer I feel like is yes, but then we won't do it. Do you know what I mean? Like there are obviously solutions, and there are countries in the world where homelessness doesn't exist. So like we know that there are answers. We just also know that our government will never do that because we're like so entrenched in our system and so like reliant on money.
I remember
and the funding.
I had this like friend of a friend who was visiting from Norway where she had moved, and she was talking about how like in her city that of like 500,000 people, she's like, we do have homeless people. She's like, we have 4 guys. And
literally.
Like you know their names, and they're people who could go inside,
100%.
but they can't convince them to go inside. Yeah. But there are social workers who know them, and people in the neighborhood know them. So it's like that guy's checked up on.
Yeah.
He's fine.
Yeah.
He's not getting help, but he's as opposed to like this just like ballooning group of people where there's no services for them. Yeah,
the Scandinavian countries like have solved that. They're not doing everything perfectly, but they have solved that issue, and that's because they pay 75% taxes. And if you suggested to people here that we pay 75% taxes, they would lose their minds. So it's like, it feels somewhat unsolvable here just because like we are individualist and greedy. And
and I feel like most Canadians like will just always look at America and be like, well, why don't we have their economy? And I'm like, you could go there.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's always people versus money. It's so sad. So sad. Anyway,
Sorry, I feel like I pushed us in like the most depressing.
That's okay. I mean, I love talking about this, but it is depressing. Really depressing for a comedy podcast.
Okay, I remember earlier in the summer you went on a trip.
Yes.
Will you tell me about your trip?
Okay. I think this is the trip you're talking about. I went to Europe. Like I went to Iceland and Scotland and Ireland.
Amazing.
It was amazing. It was so good.
And you have some Irish ancestry?
Scottish, yeah.
Oh my god.
Fun fact, my the Percy family, actually, they still own the largest inhabited castle in Scotland.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Do you know the people there?
No. My great uncle, something is like a historian, and he tried to go back there, and he was like, I'm a Percy, let me in. They were like, Get out of our Yeah, they were like, do you know how many Percys there are?
Castle.
Yeah, like, we don't care. But it was used to film the first 2 Harry Potter movies.
Oh my god. Are you a Potter fan?
Oh yeah.
Big time?
No, not big time. Like, enough, you know?
A lot of people have at least some of it.
I feel like I'm not a big time fan of anything. Like, except for comedy stuff. Like, comedy stuff, yes, but I feel like I don't get obsessed with specific things the way a lot of people do. You know? Like Swiftie, like any area where people are like, this is my thing. I'm like, it just feels crazy to me to devote all your energy to something. Like,
that's cool.
I don't know. Are you obsessed with anything?
I am always obsessed with something and then I'm kind of done with it quickly.
Exactly.
But there's some things that stay. Like, I consider myself a Game of Thrones fan. I really like talking to people who are also into it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But then other properties that are close to it, like I didn't get into Lord of the Rings or Potter. I do like Dune, but only like the movies and the first book.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like there's very few things other than comedy that I'd be like, oh, I want to have an in-depth conversation about this with someone else who likes it. You know, like that's what I mean. But Game of Thrones, really.
Yeah.
Interesting. I stopped watching after the Red Wedding because it made me sad.
Yeah, we lost a lot of people.
I was like, how are we going to recover from losing like 2 of the best people in the show? And then I guess they did.
We just kept going. Okay, What favorite thing about Scotland?
Favorite thing about Scotland? The people, I guess. Like, just so cheery and friendly.
Did you feel like you could live there?
For sure, Edinburgh. Glasgow was cool, but it's so small, so tiny. But Edinburgh, yes.
Did you
definitely
do any
loved it.
mics?
No, I didn't, and I didn't plan ahead enough to try and do any shows or anything. But I went and watched 2 shows in Ireland, and actually crazy. So a guy who was hosting one of the shows I saw last week, he was just on the show with me at Yuck Yucks, and I was like,
Amazing.
where do I know this guy from? And I had to think about it.
It was
so
from
long.
Edinburgh?
No, it was from Dublin.
Ireland,
From
okay.
a show in Dublin, yeah.
That's
That he was
insane.
hosting. I know, it was crazy. I went up to him, I was like, I know you.
Oh my god, that's so good.
Yeah.
Was the Irish comedy scene insane?
No, it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. Like, I think I have this idea that any other city that's like big and known for comedy in the world is gonna be amazing, and then I go there and I'm just like, oh, this is just like anywhere else, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I really liked going to, like, I like going to shows that aren't good, because I like comparing, like, where I'm at, you know? I like
Yeah.
comparing my own level and being like, are we worse than the rest of the world, or are we
Yeah.
at the same level? And I feel like anyone starting out anywhere is,
It's the same.
it's the same.
Yeah.
So I kind of like learning that.
I
Yeah.
respect that.
Yeah.
Do you have an all-time favorite comedian?
Yes. I think I have a couple, like, for different reasons. Probably James Acaster, British comedian.
Does he have orange hair?
Yes. I think he's probably my favorite. Tig Notaro. Tig Notaro also, she
Very good.
is, like, the hardest I've ever laughed was when I saw her live. And
Oh, jealous.
like, truly to this day, I've never laughed that hard. So
Yeah.
she has to be one of my favorites ever.
Yeah.
Love Bo Burnham, obviously. I feel like there's so many. Nate Bargatze,
Yes.
always.
He's my favorite working today guy.
Yeah, honestly, I think so too. And I showed my parents him, and they love him too, which is funny because
Yeah.
they don't love comedy, and we don't like watch comedy together very much. But he's the one person that they're like,
Yeah.
they love him.
TikTok today just started giving me clips from him hosting SNL, so that I have it on my list to find that whole episode.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I kind of forget about SNL, and then
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like so many comedy people are obsessed with SNL, and I did not, because I didn't really grow up watching TV, so I'm like, I would have to go back and get into it now, which is harder,
Yeah.
because I feel like it was somewhat revolutionary for the time,
Did
and
you
now
guys
looking back, I'm like,
Not have TV.
we did have TV, it just wasn't a thing.
You didn't have the attention span to watch TV.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh
Yeah.
my god. Now I want to
Kinda
know
love
more
it.
about you as a kid, because I feel like you were quite interesting. But we've actually come to an hour.
Have we really?
This is
Oh my
like
god.
flown by.
It really has.
I want to
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So we can find you as Tia Percy,
Tia Percy
on
on
all the
Instagram.
socials,
Just the
but-
one.
just on
Looking
Instagram,
for me eventually getting on TikTok, but
Oh my God.
we'll see.
and you will not be liking anyone else's stuff
No.
because you're not paying attention.
Yeah, I won't be supporting any other comedian ever. So don't
Except
expect-
live.
Yeah, except live. I
Okay.
laugh crazy in real life.
Thank
Thank you so much.